Okay, here is podcast number 1 in chapter 17, the urinary system. There's two main functions to the urinary system. The first is to get rid of waste products. The main type of waste product that forms in your body is from nitrogenous waste, and that is from the breakdown of various proteins in your body. You know, your enzymes will break down over time, and antibodies will break down. Those are proteins, and they're going to make a certain kind of waste called nitrogenous waste, which basically have mostly nitrogen in them. You also get various toxins in your body, and any drugs that you take in, including over-the-counter drugs, there will be remnants left over, and those will also be eliminated in your urine. Second is the regulation of homeostasis. So you need to keep the amount of water in your blood always stable. You only can go without drinking water for a couple of days because you can keep that water balance for a couple of days and then it stops working. Your pH balance, that's what your acid-base balance means. So your blood stays slightly basic. Your plasma concentrations in your blood of the various ions that you need and nutrients, things like calcium, that you need potassium, sodium, things like that you need in your blood, those things need to be regulated. And then also your blood volume and blood pressure are part of maintaining homeostasis, and your kidneys will take care of that as well. So the organs of the urinary system, you have two kidneys, and you're going to hear the word renal a whole bunch of times, and renal means pertaining to the kidneys. So anytime you hear the word renal, we're talking about kidneys. There are two ureters. These are tubes that are attached to the kidneys and will connect the urine that's made in the kidneys and bring it down to the urinary bladder. The urinary bladder is actually a muscular sac. It's collapsible, and it's made of transitional epithelial tissues, which means it can expand and contract. The urinary bladder will hold about 200 milliliters of urine before you get the impulse to go to the bathroom. The maximum it can hold is 500 milliliters before you will lose your urine. The urethra is a tube that's going to carry the urine from the bladder to the outside of the body, and actually does that through muscle contractions called peristalsis. So it'll push the urine out of the body once you release the muscles in your bladder to allow that to happen. So here are the major organs of your system. So your two kidneys are here. Here's your ureter. The urine will travel down. The bladder is here. And then the urethra goes out either to the outside of the body. You can see there's major blood supply going into the kidneys. You have the renal artery and the renal veins, and those are going to go right in, and they come lead directly to and from the aorta and the vena cava, which are the major blood vessels that come out of the heart. So your kidneys are going to play a very important role in cleaning the blood, and they are one of the first stops along the way for the blood. So we're going to take a closer look at the kidney today. There are some regions of the kidney that you're going to be aware of. The hilus is an indentation right at the beginning here. It's kind of circled in this place here. And that's where everything enters into the kidney. So you can see the renal vein comes in, the renal artery, and then here's the ureter where the urine will come out. All of that comes together at this indentation. That's actually why the kidney has that shape. That's why they call the kidney bean a kidney bean, because it looks like a kidney. The outermost layer of your kidney is called the cortex. So all this area out here is the renal cortex. And cortex means outer layer. And the functional unit inside here you can see is the nephron. We'll talk about that some more, but parts of the nephron are in the cortex, parts of it are in the medulla, which is the next part. So the renal medulla is that inner region of the kidney. The renal pelvis, there's collecting tubes inside the kidney that are going to take in all of the urine and send them down to the ureter. And then actually your kidney is separated into lobes. And each of those has a medullary pyramid in there, and inside each of those pyramids are thousands and thousands of these things called nephrons. And we'll talk about what the nephron does. So again, here are your major regions. So your cortex is the outer region. And then each of these areas here is one of those pyramids. But that whole inner region itself is called the medulla. Okay. In here, you have your renal pelvis, where all of the urine is going to collect and go down into the ureter. And you can see the entire kidney is inundated with blood supply. Tons and tons and tons of capillaries all over the place because the job of the kidney is to clean the blood. So you're going to have a lot of blood vessels in there. So we're going to take a closer look at the nephrons right now. They are the functional unit of the kidney, and you have about 1 million nephrons per kidney. Okay, their main job is to make your urine. They are mostly found in the cortex. Some are found at the border between the medulla and the cortex. So the biggest portion of them are up in the cortex, but they do extend down into the medulla. There's two main parts to a nephron. There's the glomerulus and the renal tubule. And these are going to be involved with filtering the blood through a very intricate process until the urine is completely formed. Okay, so here's what your nephron looks like. So again, here's the cortex is up here, and the medulla is down in this point. So you can see most of it is up here in the cortex. There's blood supply that comes in. Okay, your glomerulus is right here. And this is the renal tubule that goes all the way around, extends all over the place. And then once it does its job, okay, and again over here, everything is going to collect into the collecting tube. And that's where the final waste is going to be found. All the urine will collect in the collecting duct, and then it will go out of the kidney, and that is your urine. So in podcast number 2, we'll actually look at how that process happens. Okay, so let's take a closer look at the glomerulus. Okay, it is actually a capillary network. Okay, remember your capillaries are your very, very tiny thin-walled blood vessels, usually 1 cell thick. It's a whole bunch of capillaries that kind of make like a ball. They are surrounded by a part of the renal tubule called Bowman's capsule. And basically it's where the whole process of making your urine is going to start. So a whole bunch of stuff's going to come out of the blood in the glomerulus and make it into the renal tubule, and then you're going to process all of that stuff throughout the rest of the renal tubule. Okay, so here's your capillaries that are all part of the glomerulus, and then the Bowman's capsule actually goes right around the outside. So all the blood flows in here, a whole bunch of filtration is going to happen, and then the cleaner blood is going to leave. But that's still going to continue into the nephron. It's not done yet. Now the renal tubule is what's going to do the major part of the cleaning of the blood. It consists of the Bowman's capsule, which we just talked about. There is the proximal convoluted tubule. This is a coiled up part that comes right after Bowman's capsule. There's a part called the loop of Henle, which has this long U shape. And then there's the distal convoluted tubule, which is another coiled part, and that's the end part of the tubule. And that's going to empty into the collecting duct. So all of the urine that is finally made at the end gets all of finishing touches to it in the distal tubule, and then it ends up in the collecting duct. Okay. So here's another picture. Again, here's your major blood supply comes in. First bit of filtering happens here, so basically everything gets taken out of the blood that goes into the tubule, and then the blood supply is actually going to continue around. And all of this stuff's going to be getting filtered and moved in and out of the blood all along the way here until it gets reabsorbed back into the blood, what you want, and what's left, the waste products, will continue down into the collecting duct. Okay, so we'll take a look at that entire process in podcast number 2.